Hello, everyone, and welcome to Raising the New Earth. Brooke and I are excited to have our guest today, Kelly Dean. Kelly Dean is a core specialist and founder of the Tummy Team. She's a physical therapist specializing in the rehabilitation of internal muscles of the abdominals and back. She was also a competitive swimmer and has an extensive professional experience in neuromuscular rehabilitation, strokes, and brain. And after a challenging personal journey, which we hope she'll share with you, she became the owner and the founder of the Tummy Team. And she does many more uh, many other things. So she combines multiple approaches to treat weak core, ab separation, and the pelvic floor. Welcome, Kelly.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So tell us a little bit about your background and how and what led you to found the Tummy Team.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's always fun to listen to somebody else to introduce you a little bit, but um yeah, so I've been a physical therapist for over 25 years, which seems so bizarre to me to even say that, but it's been a long time. And I originally did not do orthopedic type or women's health pelvic floor type stuff. I was, like you said, a brain injury stroke rehab specialist. That was kind of my area. And I loved that type of work. I love how the brain and the body connects, and how to take something that seems pretty numb and dead and disconnected and bring it back to life and make it functional and give people their life back. It was really powerful work. I then started to have my family, and I moved across the country, and I had a different job where I worked in home health for a bit. And then I had a lot of fertility struggles. It was very difficult for me to get pregnant, to stay pregnant. I ended up having 5 miscarriages in the midst of having my 3, full term live births. And in that whole journey, I had a lot of trauma to my core that I didn't even know, because I was in the zone, trying to get pregnant, doing all the procedures, just I didn't even realize I disconnected from my body. And because I was a collegiate athlete, I knew how to power through and how to work hard and how to just, eyes on the prize, goal driven. And I really ignored a lot of very, now in hindsight, obvious dysfunction that was going on in my body. A lot of weakness. I had a severe separation of my abdominal wall. I had a lot of stuff going on with instability of my joints and pelvic floor issues. And I did not see any of it until I was on the other side of my last pregnancy. And I was like trying to get my body back. And I discovered that, I'm a physical therapist, and I never even checked my own self for a diastasis. It was just like not even on my radar. It wasn't what I do. But my sister-in-law, who is also a PT, we met in PT school, and then I married her brother. That's how we became.
Oh, oh.
And so we were at like Thanksgiving. We met in the middle at our in-laws, my in-laws, her parents. And I was like, telling her my woes about my tummy, and I still looked pregnant and all of this stuff. And she's like, I think you have a diastasis. And as soon as she said it, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I do have a diastasis. And she checked me, and she's like, oh my gosh. It was like 6 fingers wide from the sternum all the way to the pubic bone. She's like, I can't feel any connective tissue. I am pretty sure surgery is your only option. But this is why you feel like crap. And that started me on a journey of figuring it out. And I was going to get surgery. Everybody told me to get surgery. And then, well, surgery is not covered by insurance. And so save $10,000 and then do surgery. And then in that process, I started figuring out, gosh, I just had some babies. Like what's happening? And then I remember telling my girlfriends that I'm going to save up for this surgery at like a birthday. And they're like, well, what's going on with your tummy? And I told them, and they were like, I wonder if I have that. And so like, in true Tummy Team fashion, anywhere, anytime, somebody might drop down and make me check their tummy. And I went around the room and I checked my 6 girlfriends' tummies, and all of them had a diastasis.
Oh my God.
And
Wow.
and 2 of them were as severe as mine. And I was like,
Wow.
wait a second, what is happening? Like, this isn't this rare, weird thing. And at the time, I was also part of a mom's group. And I was like on this leadership team of this mom's group, and we had this great ideas day. And after I had started doing a little bit of work to try to fix my stomach, I decided to like share at this great ideas day. This might be what's going on with you. And then I proceeded to check everybody in the room, 40 women,
Wow.
including like mentor moms and like the lady that was working in the kitchen that had their kids years ago. And 96% of them had a diastasis. And I was like, I need to do something. And then I started helping people. And my girlfriend said to me, she goes, it's like you have a little tummy team. And that's where the tummy team name came from. And I never thought I was going to create a business. I just needed to, there was nobody that could help me. So like, as any entrepreneur does, you know, if you can't find the solution, you make the solution. And I made the solution. And then I started just helping people I know. And then I started helping who they knew. And then people are like, you should probably charge for this since you're a physical therapist. And so then I created a business model, and it just rolled into more and more stuff. And now, like I was telling you before we started, now I teach at a midwifery college. I teach conferences around the country. I have an international program. I have a bunch of online programs, and I help people everywhere. And I helped you, and that's how we know each other.
That's true. So Kelly helped me. I had an 8 finger separation in my abdomens. And when I came to see a doctor, he said, well, I can fix it to you. It's going to be a surgery, and I'm going to give you a new belly button. I said, "I don't need a belly button. You know, to operate surgery, I was like, there's got to be something more than that. And I Googled. I came across your website, thetummyteam.com, and I was like, I'm going to give it a chance. And with all this beautiful online courses that you offer, I was able to heal it fully to a 0.5 finger separation, which is unheard of. I came back to my doctor, and he's still now 5 years later overwhelmed by the repair.
Yeah. And no surgery,
No
right?
surgery.
No surgery. And same thing. Mine is closed, and it's been closed for the last 12 years. And I've returned to competitive swimming. And it's not a death sentence, but it feels that way.
Right.
And we'll talk more about why it feels that way. It's not just like, oh, I have something wrong with my body and nobody can help me. Having a separation of your abdominal wall messes with your entire identity, your energy, your ability to think, your digestive tract, it's not cosmetic, it's not vanity, although there's a component of that, and that's okay. It's okay to want to look good and feel good in your own skin, but it's not just that. This is not a cosmetic surgery that you need to pay out of pocket for, but I honestly don't want, I kind of like that it's set up that way, because I don't want people getting unnecessary surgery when that's not the solution. Rebuilding and retraining the muscles is the solution. And there's a way to do it that's not, you're not working out 24/7 to do this, right? It's looking at how our body is designed, and it's designed to have this. One of the things I say at the very first page of my midwifery course, our bodies are designed to have babies and not fall apart. Right. And but we do have babies and fall apart. So then what? So how do we go back to the original design of those muscles? And that's where my background in brain injury and stroke and all of that stuff that I didn't even know was going to, come in. I'm looking at what was the original design of the muscles. Oh, we're disconnected from our core? Yeah, I lost 5 babies. This is a source of pain and grief and sorrow. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to touch it. And when you can't heal something you can't feel, right? And so there's a whole process to connect to your body, to understand your alignment, to understand how those muscles were designed. And it wasn't designed for crunches or planks. Newsflash, no crunches and no planks. That's not actually what your abdominal wall is. It's it's postural. It holds you up. It holds the uterus in place. You know, it holds your bladder in place. That's what the core does. It connects your ribs and your pelvis so that your body is stable and your arms and legs can move. That's what the core does. And how do we get it back to doing that, which it's required to do all day long as a mother, right? Motherhood is its own workout. We know it's physically demanding, you know? Yeah, we don't need to add extra workouts to it to make it even harder.
No. Well, and going back to the piece of you talking about the core, being connected to so many other things like emotional, like talk about all of the things that come with motherhood. Like it's a physical exercise, it's emotional exercise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's
that strong core.
The journey of doing this work, the longer as everything, as every clinician, it evolves, right? You learn more, you learn from your clients, you learn more layers of stuff. Initially, I was just trying to figure out where the transverse abdominis was, the corset muscle was, and how to get it to work. And then as I started doing this work, I started realizing, oh, there is an emotional connection here. There is almost a spiritual connection to our core. There's a lot of women, men too, but women have a lot of body image issues. This is like a vulnerable place in our body where if we have had trauma, it's usually from the chest to the pubic bone. That's where it's been. That's where the trauma has been, or that's where we've held it. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. And we've found a way to help people journey through that and come on the other side. And I don't know if you guys experience this, but when I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm done having kids, my body then, it's 12 years later, was not my body before I had kids. I didn't even know who I was. Hadn't felt myself for so long. Yes. Because we're pouring out. And at the end of that, we can sometimes become a shell, and we have to remember or reframe who we're a new person now. Our experiences have changed us, but we are still us. And I love now that people don't have to wait 12 years. I work with them at the beginning of their pregnancy. I work with them through the whole journey. And so they don't lose so much of themselves. Their body's going to change, their identity is going to change, but we're going to stay strong and grounded throughout that whole process when possible. Yeah.
That's so important. I'm happy that there's so many more resources now and like people like you that are talking about this, but I still feel like it is so under the radar of what we talk about. I mean, both the physical component of, the Diastasis Recti, which I'm hopefully pronouncing right, but like also just all that goes with that too, as being mothers and that loss of identity and everything. So I think your work is incredibly important. What do you feel is like do you feel like there's one thing that like is, or kind of, can you speak a little bit to why isn't it talked about more? Why, I mean, even you as a physical therapist, not being able to identify it yourself, like, is it just kind of that Western medical mentality?
No, this is what I think it is I think for a long time, there was not a good solution. Even surgery is not doctors are hesitant to even recommend surgery because they know that's not the solution. There hasn't been a good physical therapy solution. And I don't know why in that way, because in PT school, we learned a lot about the arms and the legs and a little bit about the back muscles, but nothing about the abdominal wall. And when you go and have a surgery in the hospital, if you always get a PT referral if you had a back surgery, leg surgery, or shoulder surgery. But if you had an abdominal surgery, you don't get a PT referral. The muscles of the core hold your whole body together. And we,
Yeah.
it's like we just kind of skirted around them. So we really ignored this area. So my thought process is doctors don't, and medical professionals, I won't just blame doctors, medical professionals don't like to look for and identify something that they have no solution for. So they don't naturally go and say, oh, let's check you for a diastasis. Oh, that sucks for you. You know, too bad that happened, right? Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he had nothing to give them, right? So often they won't do it. They won't even look for it unless somebody goes, hey, what is this thing in my stomach? Why is it bulging out? Why is this temp? Why does my stomach look weird? And then they'll say, oh, that's what this is. And they know that in some cases it gets better, and in some cases it doesn't. And that's what they kind of say. It could get better. It might not. If it turns into a hernia, we could do surgery. You know, again, terrible options, right? So part of my journey and why I love getting the word out in different podcasts like this is now there is a way to heal it. Like you just heard from me and Noah, like we both healed severe diastasis that we were told by multiple medical professionals that there was no hope for fixing without some kind of reconstructive surgery. And I see this time and time again. So the more success we have, the more we can tell doctors, hey, this, you know, you going back to your doctor and saying, hey, look, you checked me before, look at your medical notes, check me now, see the difference. And this is not a surgery. So the more we can get the word out, and this is why I also love that I am teaching at this college, you know, I'm seeing these students, you know, I'm teaching midwifery students to check everybody for a diastasis at every single appointment, prenatally, postpartum, because it's a solution. And the sooner we can see that their abdominals are starting to separate, the sooner we can be proactive and preventative. And if they don't have a DR, yay, how can we keep it that way? How can we, you know, the training that I'm giving them is very preventative, because we can prevent it. And so we can treat it and we can prevent it. So I think that that's, to answer your question, the reason why. And we don't know what we don't know. And I'm the same way. I wouldn't like be like, oh, I know how to check for like this condition. I don't know how to fix it, but I know how to check for it. So like, you know, it's like, why don't we just let that person be in blissful ignorance than tell them they have something that nobody can fix?
They can't. Yeah.
Right. But we can fix it. And that's the shift. And I'm trying to change the standard of care so that people check. But the cool thing is, and I know this is one of your questions that you were asking, the cool thing is there's a self-assessment. You can check yourself, and it's, you don't have to have expert palpation skills to know something's wrong. You can either check yourself for diastasis, but you can also simply check your symptoms. Like if you're feeling like you have chronically collapsed posture, you can't sit up and hold yourself up for any length of time, that's a sign. If you have achy low back pain, if you have leaking pelvic floor like issues or prolapse or heaviness, SI joint instability, pubic bone instability. If you, when you're pregnant, you look pregnant on the first day you took the test, you're like, boom, you know, or you have a pendulous belly that sticks out like a torpedo. If your belly button has popped, if you are having GI tract dysfunction where you're constipated or you can't fully empty your bowels, you know, all of those things are a sign of functional core weakness, whether or not you have a diastasis. If you have a diastasis on top of it, yes, we need to treat it. But even if you don't have a diastasis, all of those things are functional core weakness that might turn into a diastasis. But even if they don't, you don't have an optimal quality of life, and don't settle for less than the best, you know, the best version of yourself. And so you can do a self-assessment and know, hey, I need this. I know that this is not okay, and I want to feel better. And whether or not you have an official diagnosis, you still can do this work and have a really powerful, impact from it.
And I would add that I know from your course, I learned that women or men, even years after having the DR diagnosis, can still repair. And in fact, I didn't start repairing mine until 2 years after I gave birth. I wasn't sure what I had. I just looked really pregnant, and I kept getting, congratulations, are you pregnant again, from the cashiers? And just not to embarrass them, I said yes, like an idiot. I just didn't want to make them feel
I've done the same thing. And it depends on my state of mind where I was, because with my history, sometimes I didn't want to be asked if I was pregnant when I wasn't, because I just lost a baby. Depending on my state of mind, I'm like, why are we making other people feel okay? They shouldn't be asking. It's not their business. But I know that most people don't mean poorly, so we shouldn't be mean. But there's been times where I'm like, no, but I just lost a baby. I guarantee you that person's never going to ask somebody again.
I know.
But it's just, I feel like that is a very sensitive, when you are struggling with something and trying to we don't know people's stories. And that's why I say, when people say, oh, it's just vanity, it's never just vanity. There's a reason we want the outside to match the inside.
Yeah. And talk to us more about the women that experience grief and trauma. I too have had miscarriages, many, many miscarriages in between my live births. So when someone commented, it's probably because I just miscarried. So there's still, the effect of the hormones. But tell us how you work with mothers with grief and trauma.
Well, that's definitely something near and dear to my heart because of my story, but also this work is emotional in nature. And I learned that when I first started doing the work, when I was checking somebody's tummy or looking at their skin or looking at their diastasis or doing some abdominal massage, I was always just looking at their tummy and just kind of looking, and then I got to the point where I started looking at their face. And as soon as I exposed their tummy or touched their tummy, it was like two reactions would happen. They would either shut down or break down. Shut down where they kind of disassociate a little bit. I'm just gonna, grin and bear this and get through it and go to my happy place and really withdraw from feeling anything. Or the emotions are so intense that they just start crying and they don't even know why, right? And the reason is there's a book called The Body Keeps a Score. Our body, you cannot completely separate physical from emotional and emotional from physical. And when there's something that's sad that happened or trauma, the way we define trauma is a moment where you felt out of control, in harm, the need to protect yourself. And that is very personal. Trauma is different for every person, right? Some people have no trauma with, a pelvic exam, and other people are very traumatized by a pelvic exam. And so knowing when your body wants to protect you. And so when you're in a situation like that, there's usually a lot of tension, a lot of kind of gripping or holding on or bracing for the next thing to happen. But you're doing that physically, but somewhat emotionally and mentally, you're withdrawn from it. So it's like these two separate things, right? You're here, la, 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 and your body is in this battle, right? And the way we survive that in that traumatic moment is to disassociate somewhat, is to compartmentalize. That is a gift that our body gives us to survive something very hard. It is not an ongoing lifestyle. Numbness is a refuge for a moment, but not forever. So when I put my hands on somebody's tummy or have them put their hands on their tummy or slow them down and breathe and connect to their body, it opens up nerves and blood flow. And the last thing they felt before they disconnected is the first thing they're feeling now. And there's this, they either shut down again or they are overwhelmed by the intensity of it. And when I explain that to them, it's easier for them to go, oh, I was like, your body fought a battle for you, and it's never gotten a chance to process it and release it. It just shut down and went dormant somewhat. So as we start waking those muscles up and getting blood flow to those muscles, initially it's emotional, but I can be with them in that moment and say, but right now, your baby's healthy, you're safe. We're right here on my table in this space. You know, today is December 15th, 2017, whatever, can you hear the cars outside? Can you hear the wind in the trees? Can you stay in this moment with me? Can you feel my hands on you? Can you feel what your body is releasing right now? And we will go through, or I take them through a lot of times, because I'm online now, I am coaching them to help nurture their own body. And it's really beautiful because we always want to kind of, oh, I'll let them do it. I'll let my husband rub my tummy. Oh, I'll let my massage therapist rub my tummy. I'm like, no, I need you to rub your tummy. I need you to love and nurturing and honor what your body has been through and allow it to move to the next step. And, and it can be emotional, but I always tell people, do you know like that a movie's going to be sad and you choose to watch it anyway? Because the movie ends in 2 hours, right? And those emotions are kind of valuable. Even though you're going to cry at the movie, you still hit play, right? This is no different. We know we're going to cry. I'm not going to make you stay there. You don't have to relive your whole traumatic episode, but we need to let it out and move forward. And I have a lot of things I work with the nervous system to help that: pressure, massage, tapping, breathing, things that take people from their sympathetic fight or flight nervous system into their parasympathetic nervous system, calm their body down, help them be grounded. And honestly, it's the first time it's a lot of emotions. The second time we go back there, it's about 50% less. The third time, they may not have any extreme emotions tied to it. So there's light at the end of the tunnel for sure. And then they feel something, and now we can connect to it. And now, like I said, you can't, we've all woken up and had our foot asleep, and we try to walk on it, and it's like, oh my gosh, right? We can't walk on something we can't feel, right? And it's the same thing. Once we feel it, now we can start using it and accessing it. And it gives them back this deep sense of their own identity that they didn't know they were missing until we give it back. And you experienced that, right? You didn't know this empty feeling you had until it wasn't empty anymore.
Yeah, that module was super powerful. And then you used an ointment that I bought. I think it was a combination of frankincense and myrrh or something really soothing. And, even touching that area was really emotional. And then I started thanking the area for, bearing children with me, and thanking for all the body that it keeps the score, but it also wants to heal, and we need to move forward. So that was
it keeps you alive. We sometimes demonize, oh, my body failed me. No. Your body desperately tried to hold on to every one of those pregnancies and could not, and held you together while you went through it. You're here, so it did its job. And it's not our enemy. It's actually our best friend that has gotten a really bad rap, been really neglected and beaten up, and we need to nurture it and create a relationship that is healthy again.
Right. And do you find, because I'm assuming men don't feel the grief and the trauma that a woman does because of just biological way of carrying it. So how do you approach the DR with them?
Totally be surprised. You would totally be surprised. Now, men don't obviously have the same types of trauma, but the men have a tremendous amount of emotion stored in their core. And the demographic of men that most commonly have DR are 50 to 75-year-old men. So they're a little bit older. I do see some young guys that worked out and overdeveloped the muscles, and we work on that, and they have some things too. But this 50 to 75-year-old demographic is really special. I love these guys. And their identity is being strong, you know, being reliable, being dependable. But now my back goes out, you know, and some of them, they have a lot of body image issues. They're like, you know, 70 years old and don't want to take off their shirt in the pool with their grandkids because they've got a belly, you know, and they're like checking out of things they want to do because they can't. They thought they were going to golf throughout their retirement, but now their back hurts every time they golf because their belly bulges out. And then a lot of them were disconnect from their body during their work years. And then they want to be active now that they're not working so much, but they can't. And then when I give this back, the word that comes up time and time again is nostalgia. They're like, oh, I remember feeling like this and playing a pickup game of basketball with my sons when they were 5 and 8, you know, like it comes back. And once they get that connection, it comes back, and there's a confidence, and there's memories there. And so it's different. It's not the same. But the other thing that I see is men. I have several men that I have to work with the men for quite a while to get to know this part of them. And I have a couple of, during COVID, I had a couple of older gentlemen that met with me like every week for like months because they needed that activity and connection. And both of these men had lost wives to cancer. And they disconnected from their body when their wives were going through their chemo treatment. Because they were there for them, and they were eating emotionally, and they were sitting in a lot of waiting rooms and a lot of hospital rooms, and they weren't as active, and you know, and so getting back to connect to that stirs up a lot of, it's almost like secondary trauma, but it's not, because they have their own trauma from that event, watching somebody they love battle something very out of their control when they're responsible. They feel like their responsibility was to protect their wives, and they are helpless to them. And I see that also. I have a similar journey with my husband with all the miscarriages. Everybody's so focused on me. He grieved every one of those losses, not just the losses, but the potential losing his wife too, or incrementally losing his wife. Because watching me numb myself and not connect and not have joy and power through life, he grieved the loss of each baby differently than me, but the loss of me in that process too. So I think we do an in-service to not acknowledge emotions in men and not give them permission to have emotions. And we want them to be strong. We want them to be our pillar. You know, but we also want them to care and need them to care. And that's held in their core as well.
Wow, that's a beautiful reminder.
Yeah. We just don't think about it, you know? So yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, you don't do the trauma. And I actually have a trauma course I have Nurturing Core, which is a 6-week trauma course, mostly for women because it's related to core and pelvic floor. And then I have a 4-week trauma course that could be men or women, but it just eliminates the pelvic floor component. And it's like, you know, trauma from, you know, a surgery or a procedure or an injury or something else. And yeah.
And I think the pelvic floor is important to mention, because you do that, and doing the course, I think I chimed in the chat wherever it was, Facebook, as like, I can finally jump on the trampoline with my kids and not exit the trampoline when I laugh, you know.
Right. And that's not, you know, that's great. Not everybody can get back to trampolines are the hardest thing to do. But yeah, I think that we've normalized dysfunction of pelvic floor. And if you don't believe me, just walk down the aisle in Walmart of all of the incontinence products, you know, or even open up a magazine at a doctor's office, and how many ads on incontinence panties and incontinence, all of these things. We've normalized that it's just normal to leak, and it's just normal. It's not normal. Common and normal are not the same thing. You know, it might be common, but there's a lot of things that are common that are not normal, you know?
Right.
Right. So just because it's common doesn't mean we don't treat it. And what I think women need to know is small symptoms are your warning light on your car, you know, the service engine soon light. If you ignore that light, you might be pulling over on the side of the road with a car that's just done, right? So we could say, oh, it's not that big a deal. I just leak sometimes when I cough or sneeze, or I just leak a little bit, you know, when I'm laughing, or my bladder's full. And you're right, it's minor at that point. But what happens is then I will see clients later that are like, all of a sudden, I have all these heavy prolapse symptoms. And I'm like, is it all of a sudden? Or did you ignore the little leakage, the little pain, this thing, and power through and power through and power through and power through? And now this is where we are. And pelvic floor is preventable it's so much easier to treat when we catch it early. It's treatable when it's severe, but it's so much easier to treat when we catch it early. So don't put your own self-care off as a mom. You are the backbone of your entire family. And so you need to be strong. You need to have the capacity to do all the things. And so that means you need to invest in yourself as well. And it shows your kids how they're going to take care of themselves when they become parents.
And do you find that healing the pelvic floor can restore some of, you know, we know that there's the root chakra and some of the power is sexual interest. Do you find that women find it again after restoring their pelvic floor?
Well, I definitely feel like, a lot of pelvic floor, we want to think it's Kegels and strengthening and squeezing, and it's not. Pelvic floor muscles are structural and postural, and they hold things in place, right? But intimacy specifically, there's some structure that helps, but it's blood flow that makes everything happy down there, right? When we get a lot of blood flow, it engorges tissues. It causes swelling. When those tissues swell, the mucous membranes release, so we have more lubrication. The swelling of the clitoris is what makes things feel good. The swelling of the walls of the vaginal canal is what makes penetrative intercourse feel good. It's hard to get blood flow into an area that we're disconnected from, that has in the past caused pain, so we clench up, or that we've been powering through symptoms. So when you think about this holistic healing, getting blood flow into those tissues is what changes a lot of it, but also feeling that deep part of yourself. Intimacy is just that, it's intimate, right? And it's opening yourself up and sharing yourself with another person. And when you are kind of a shell of yourself, that's very hard to do, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just this act that we have to mechanically do. It's a whole thing. And so I think that our process is more than, obviously, as you listen to me talk, it's more than just a series of exercises, right? It's a whole journey to reclaiming the ultimate design of these muscles and these structures, repairing them from this huge transformation of birth, but not just birth, all the newborn parenting postures, all the postures that we're in as parents and as mothers, that makes an impact too. And so we look at all of those things, and then, yeah, they get a sense of all those things start to get better and come back, you know?
Right. And that's why I love your work, because restoring your your ab connection and your pelvic floor will reconnect that individual to the world of physical and emotional identity, our self-image, our relationship to oneself, as well as the physical world. That's why I find your work so fascinating. It's such a blessing to humanity as a whole. It has changed my life, and I sure hope that it's going to keep changing others' lives as well.
Yeah, well, that's why we do this work. And I mean, it changed my life, right? And then it changed my friends' lives. And then, and then every client I see, I get the honor of being a part of this really cool healing journey, where
Amazing.
I see people get themselves back, get versions of themselves back. And my goal is to help them be strong for the life they were meant to live, for them to be the best version of themselves at every season, not just during pregnancy and postpartum and those early years, but like, I want you to be a strong, active grandma, like my son, my oldest, is getting married this summer, and me and my husband are taking dance lessons because we are going to show up on that dance floor. Like I want you to live like this full connected life. And I think it's hard to do when the center of your body is like,
Right. Yeah.
hard to do. Yeah.
Can you talk just a little through of your programs specifically? Like, do you just work one-on-one with people? Do you have a group program? Is it self-paced? Like, what are kind of the
That's a great
ways
question.
that, yeah.
Well, we are actually like we're actually doing this whole kind of transformation of my business model over these next couple months. And we've been working on it for a while. We haven't released it yet. So it's the first time really talking about it. But I am an online clinic, basically. So I have like 12 online courses, video courses, where people can buy them, and they it is a little bit it's like a sequence. So you get a series of videos at the beginning of a week, whatever week you start, you watch those videos, and it's education and then tools and strategies that I want you to implement throughout the week. And then you work on those things throughout the week, like how you're sitting in the car, or how you're picking up your kid, or some breathing exercises, or this stretch that I want you to do when you brush your teeth, or whatever. And then the next week, you get a new series of videos that kind of helps you build on the next set of, your body's ready for a new set of stuff. And each week it kind of goes through, and it's very intuitive. I want you to go week by week. I don't let you jump ahead because you need a full week for your body to be ready for the next thing. And so that is how a lot of people work with me. I also do online sessions kind of like this, where I hear somebody's story and I walk them through the things that I want them to do in a little bit more personal level. Sometimes people will do the course and maybe do 1 or 2 individual sessions with me. I often hear people thinking, I thought I was going to need to do an individual session, but every time I watch this next set of videos, you answered all of my questions. So I didn't need to do it, but until at the end, and then I want to know my next steps. But even then I kind of walk them through. So that's a lot of it. And then I also have online courses for professionals to train in how to do what I'm doing, so that I have birth professionals, fitness professionals, rehab professionals that can all learn different scopes of what I do and implement that into their practices. I have an apprentice program that can be endorsed by the Tummy Team. And then we are about to launch this new, it's called the Tummy Team Family. And it's a membership portal, and it basically is, so many people are like, I'm not sure I want to do the course yet. I don't know if I can commit to that, or I did the course, but I still want you to tell me what to do all the time or encourage me. So this is kind of that. It's like a membership model where they have access to exclusive like mini series of like, we're just going to talk about mastering active sitting this week. And I give them tools and strategies on how to improve their sitting alignment all week. Or we're going to work on newborn parenting postures, and I'm going to give you strategies throughout the week. And it's just, it's There's a library where you can get access to other videos or other tips and tools. You can watch other series. There's like a little interaction with me where you can ask questions and I answer your questions, but it's like people that want to be a part of like kind of this family where they want lifelong connected core strength and strategies to live it out. And so we're going to be launching that in the next month or so. And that's a fun way for people to like kind of stay in that community and have the support. And it's bite-sized pieces for people that if they're not quite ready to like commit to a whole course, but they still need something, or they've committed to the course and they want ongoing support. It's just a fun way to kind of create that environment. So that's coming in the next, I don't have a launch date, but I would say May, June 2023. It's right around the corner. We're real close. So that's fun.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so Kelly, thank you
Yes.
so much. I know that your time is valuable. I wanted to thank you for sharing your personal story and being an inspiration to all of us. I think you're such a light in this world, and we both thank you for agreeing to being on our podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. And, you know, if you guys want, I would be happy to, I would love for you guys to just share the tummyteam.com. But if your listeners want to try out one of our courses or want to come, then I will do a 15% off coupon code with the name of this podcast. So I'll give you the coupon code, and you guys could put that in your podcast notes so that anybody that has learned about us through your podcast can get a 15% off of any of our online courses, so that sometimes just that little incentive makes you take that next step. Okay.
Thank you, Kelly.
Fantastic.
Thank you so
yeah. Thank you. And I just want to say, like, I think it's so incredible that not only are you bringing more awareness around this, but addressing it in such a holistic way, that it's not just about the physical, that there's the emotional and the and the feeling component to it as well.
Well, I think we do a disservice if we don't do that. I mean, I think we're leaving untapped potential, you know.
Absolutely.
We do that.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thanks for sharing what I do, and thanks for doing the work you're doing. I think we all need a little bit more community out there, and know that we're not alone on this journey, that there's other people that have been on the same journey or a similar journey, and that we can help and support each other and collaborate. So I appreciate that. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kelly. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.